Chapter 2. Business Structure. Okay, let's dive right into this explainer and start sketching out a blueprint for a brand new business. To make these concepts really jump off the page, we're going to build this thing alongside our hand-drawn hero, Stickman Sam. We're taking Sam from a simple doodle with a massive dream all the way through the complex and, let's be honest, often messy, real-world decisions that dictate how a business is structured. Whether you're studying business frameworks or planning your own startup, this is your foundational roadmap.
So Sam has this phenomenal concept in his head. Maybe it's a revolutionary new type of pencil, or a killer digital app for artists. But here's the thing, an idea alone just isn't enough. We need to drop the right framework to actually bring it to life in the real world. You know, a lot of businesses fail, and it's not because their product was bad. It's because the underlying structure literally couldn't support the weight of their operations. The structure you choose dictates your taxes, your personal risk, how you raise money, and who ultimately calls the shots. Getting this initial sketch right is absolutely crucial.
Fortunately for us, Sam has enterprise. Now, in business terms, that means he's got the unique skills and the guts to take on risk to combine the other essential factors of production. He's taking land, so natural resources, labor, human effort, and capital, which is tools and finance, and he's transforming those basic inputs into highly valuable outputs. That transformation process is the whole core purpose of business activity, right? Adding values to the final product is worth way more than the sum of its parts.
Section 1. Choosing an economic sector. The very first line we need to draw for Sam is deciding exactly where his business fits within the wider economy.
He's got a few options here. Sam could start at the very beginning of the supply chain in the primary sector, harvesting raw materials, like wood. Or he could move into the secondary sector, taking that wood and actually manufacturing it into a chair. If he's more of a people person, he could open a tertiary sector retail shop to sell that furniture. Or he could even operate in the knowledge-based quaternary sector, providing IT or data services to optimize the entire furniture industry. Basically, every single business sits somewhere along the spectrum.
Section 2. Public versus private sectors. Now that Sam knows what his business is doing, we need to outline who he's doing it for and who actually owns the canvas he's drawing on.
This boils down to a crucial comparison between the two sectors. Sam's private business is going to aim for profit. Whether it's a tiny market stall or a massive multinational giant like Coca-Cola, private sector organizations are owned by individuals and are ultimately driven by financial returns. On the flip side, we've got the public sector. These are organizations owned and run by the government. Think local schools, police departments, or public transport. Their primary goal isn't profit at all. It's providing essential services, or merit goods, to everyday citizens regardless of their income.
But it gets really interesting when the lines between those two sectors start to blur. Because that border, it's not permanent. A government can actually step in and take ownership of a private business. That's a process called nationalization. And it's usually done for strategic industries like defense or energy. And it works the other way too. A government can sell off a public organization to private investors, which we call privatization. It's a massive structural shift that completely flips an organization's core objectives from public welfare right over to private profit.
Section 3. Picking a legal structure. Our stickman, Sam, is operating firmly in the private sector. He wants to build his own empire. So now, we absolutely must choose the exact legal shape his business is going to take.
There are a bunch of ways to trace this out. He could go it alone as a sole trader. That gives him absolute total control, but man, it makes raising capital incredibly tough. He could form a partnership, sharing the workload, but also risking some major disagreements down the line. If he wants to sell shares to raise money, he might look at a private limited company, or even a public limited company, where those shares are floated on the stock market. Alternatively, he could buy into a franchise, essentially paying to use a giant established brand's successful playbook, or start a cooperative, which is owned and run democratically by its own members.
Now think about the real trade-off Sam is going to face when he tries to raise finance. If Sam is a sole trader or in a partnership, banks are going to demand security and collateral. But if he forms a company and issues shares to raise that capital, he hits a totally different roadblock, the loss of control. Bringing in shareholders means you have to answer to them. It highlights this universal, undeniable business truth. The easier it is to raise massive sums of money, the more of your own autonomy you're going to have to surrender.
Section 4. The liability shield. As Sam sketches out these financial plans, we really need to have a serious talk about business risk.
Because things don't always go according to plan, and we have to protect Sam if his doodle gets erased. This is the ultimate defensive line. If Sam operates as a sole trader or a standard partnership, he has unlimited liability. That means he and the business are legally the exact same entity. A bad business debt could literally cost him his personal piggy bank, his car, even his house. Limited liability, however, acts as a protective shield. If a limited business goes bankrupt, the owners only lose the money they directly invested in the shares. Their personal wealth, completely protected.
To get his hands on that shield, Sam would need to pursue incorporation. This is a massive milestone. By registering formally with the government, Sam is effectively drawing a hard legal boundary between himself as an individual and his new company. The company can now sign contracts, borrow money, and even be sued in its own name. It literally becomes a legal person totally separate from Stickman Sam.
Section 5. Growing and changing shape. Let's assume Sam's business is a massive hit. He picked the right sector, the right structure, and he's got his liability shield. Eventually, his doodle is going to completely outgrow its original canvas, because as a business scales, its need for capital and structured management just skyrockets. A very common progression path for a successful, growing business is to evolve from a simple sole trader, maybe bring on a partner to share the load as a partnership, then incorporate into a private limited company to protect personal assets while raising more funds. And then, perhaps finally, the ultimate growth stage, floating shares to the general public on the stock exchange as a public limited company. But remember, any change from one legal structure to another involves a change of ownership and management, and getting that agreement can be incredibly difficult. Growth is rarely just a smooth upward line. It comes with heavy administrative costs. Changing structures requires complex regulatory filings, public disclosure of your financial accounts, and, most painfully for an entrepreneur, it forces founders to surrender total control to a board of directors and a sea of new shareholders. You get the capital to grow, for sure, but you might lose the ability to steer the ship exactly how you want. So, as we finally put our pencils down on Stickman Sam's journey, I want to leave you with this to consider. The structure you choose isn't just a bunch of boring paperwork. It literally defines the DNA of your business. It dictates your power, your vulnerability, and your ultimate potential to scale. If you were sketching out your own enterprise today, standing right there at the starting line with a brilliant idea, which structure would best protect your personal vision while fueling your ambition? It's probably the most important drawing you'll ever do.